And then ska was a dirty word. But what it was terribly influenced by Jamaican activities of the people, you know. Culture of Jamaica was pushed into it. And when the people took it on that fast, right, they just grabbed to it because it was them.
This is the way of life of the lower class people. We haven't got anything else. What else do we have? I mean, the middle class or the upper class can buy a ticket and go to Miami or somewhere like that. That's all you have. You don't know anything else.
You would not find the creative force that comes out of the inner city in the residential areas in Jamaica, because they're more settled into a pattern, into a tradition. There's a social divide and a cultural divide. We live in two countries. When ska was popular downtown, it had no popularity uptown.
In 1960, much of uptown Jamaica still preferred American music, and many of the jazz musicians who had invented ska were making a living playing the tourist resorts of the North Coast.
I used to have a serious type of class prejudice in those days, let's call it that way. You know, and it would have hurt my career in a certain sense. You couldn't go uptown and play ska music, so it was really like an outlaw type of music, you know.
In 1960, Prince Buster started his own sound system. To steal a march on his rivals, he approached the ultimate outcasts of Jamaican society, the Rastafarians, who since the 30s had looked to Africa rather than Europe as a model. He persuaded Count Ozzy and his master drummers down from the Warwicker Hills into a recording studio.
In those days, if you say it's a Rasta, all they have is black for you know. And when I make Carolina, that give the Rasta, whole Rasta speak. Because now, them, it was not the music world, them could play upon sound system. And if you play upon sound system on the island, everybody go hear you.
In the early years in Jamaica, the Rastafarian community went under so much pressure, you know. At one stage, I think there was a decree in Jamaica.
To kill the Rasta man.
To kill the Rasta man and question him after, you know. Countazi, you know. 90% all the grassroots music that's really played or created by the Rasta people, you know.
Rasta and Jamaican music have been inseparable ever since. Even at the independence celebrations, Count Ozzy and his troupe were part of the pageant laid on for Princess Margaret, whose reaction remains unrecorded.
We brought with us most of the music of Africa, the rhythm, the kumina as a form of dancing, the Nyabingi drumming by our Rastafarians. To that has been fused some of the jazz influences emanating from our sisters and brothers in New Orleans. Culture has been a very strong element in all our art forms, but particularly in our forms of musical expression.
A Lord of Lords in this land. No more back talk from any of you, 'cause I'm king from the beginning. I was made king. Lion says I am king and I reign.
What it developed from was calypso.
Lion says I am king and I reign.
What calypso singers sang about, well, lots of them used to sing about sex, but they also sing about topical things like that, so it's coming out of that. You want to know what's going on, I mean, you know, you listen to the songs. It is a kind of folk music.
Our country contested at the Lyceum the title Miss World. They numbered 40.
I'm calling you
The emerging nation was full of optimism, and with prosperity increasing, everybody wanted to own the ska records that up until now they only had heard on the sound systems.
People started buying Jamaican records. Jamaican records was accepted as the record to buy, because you're hearing yourself. You're hearing things to do with you.
Eager to capitalize on this new market, the sound system operators reinvented themselves as record companies. Prince Buster's Voice of the People, Duke Reid's Treasure Isle, and initially the top label Coxsone, run by the taciturn Clement Dodd. He was the first to realize that you could make a living beyond the sound system. With his profits, he set up the legendary Studio One, the first recording studio in Jamaica to be owned by a black man.
Studio One was a permanent place that people recorded almost every day. We were always free to go there and record whenever we feel like. And these are the kind of facilities that you got that made it a special place, you know, because it's just like home, musically. Is that the first time I've been to your home? What is the first time?
Studio One is like Jamaica's Motown. That's where all the great artists, you know, we say they graduate at this place, Studio One. It was like a 9 to 5 job. We went there early morning and we would record all day.
And I went in there at 7. I used to live at Mr. Dad's house with his children. Yeah. So every morning, I'd go to the studio with him and open the studio. He would pick up an assistant. His name is Bim Bim.
Yeah, Bim Bim.
Pick up Bim Bim first. We'll go to the studio, we'll open the studio, make his rounds. Every day we'll close the studio every night, drop Bim Bim home. It's like heaven.
Just like in the old days of the sound system, Coxsone constantly needed new sounds to stay ahead. Every Sunday morning, young hopefuls gathered in his yard, hawking their songs and looking for a shot at the big time.
The longest liver will see the moon.
Listen to all them guys go up and sing, you know, and every time, but you know, we would sing around the side, you know, and they would say, you're so good in it, man. And every time them say, your turn, man. I said, no, make them go on, make them go on.
When I saw Coxsone himself did an audition, right? Or some auditions too, before I started that. And he would tell artists that he figured weren't ready or didn't want them back. He said, okay, come back 7 years' time, you know?
It was 6 o'clock in the evening. I was the last person to go up. You know, the place was still packed up. And, you know, my first song, you got to be sure of a woman's love. And everybody crowd around, man. Everybody say, you the voice, yo. You the voice. Everyone crowd around, you know, and Mr. Dad say, nice. And the Tuesday, I'm going to do my first 2 songs.
Another group of youngsters signed by Coxsone were the Wailers, Bunny Wailer, Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. In 1964, within a year of Studio One's opening, they sold an astonishing 70,000 copies of Simmer Down.
Trenchtown. It was vibrant with a lot of activities. The place was like a, what do you call it, like a Piccadilly, like Hollywood. Music as being the center of attraction.
Everybody was singing like a family. So if the Soulettes have a recording, you'd have Bob, Peter Bunny, Delroy, you know, guys from the Paragons, everybody would come to give background support. If the Wailers have a session sometime, you would have the Ask Us girls come work with us tonight. We have 2 tunes doing listening, look at all the harmony. So that was like fun. We weren't being paid because Coxsone, we didn't get money at that time. Sometimes we get money to buy us a patty or cocoa bread, and if we're going on Fridays, we would get a pound or 30 shilling or something like that. But we didn't have a problem.